So I've been tracking exactly how Fire Emblem Engage was going to do sales-wise before launch because I think that this is a very interesting game for Nintendo. It's not quite the next big step in terms of Fire Emblem and the franchise moving forward. It is more of an anniversary game, and if you play the game, you kind of see what I'm talking about. It seems more like something like Pokemon Legends, which can be a side thing, then also have its own line of games compared to the regular Pokemon Scarlet and Violet or Sword and Shield. Fire Emblem Engage kind of fits into that realm. I wouldn't mind them splitting the series and kind of doing more what they've done before with Fire Emblem Fates, Fire Emblem Awakening, Fire Emblem Three Houses, then also having an Engage line as well if they want to do that on top of what they're doing with the remakes as well. But I've been following the sales of this game and kind of what's been going on. Now, we've already reported that the Amazon sales charts, it's #1 across the board with Japan and also in places of Europe, certain other places as well in the US. #1 on Amazon, which makes sense because Sony and Microsoft, they don't necessarily sell a lot of physical games as much anymore, but the Nintendo Switch is still the biggest vendor when it comes to selling physical games. All their systems actually have physical cartridge slots, so it's still something that's a big deal for Nintendo. So you do get quite a bit of sales coming from Amazon, so it's important to kind of look and see how a game is doing on there, at least for Nintendo. Now, we also checked on the eShop sales as well. Beforehand, it was #1 pre-launch on the Japanese eShop in addition to the US eShop and other regions as well. So overall, Fire Emblem Engage has been doing really well. Now we actually have the Famitsu sales numbers for the game. And Famitsu, what they do is they take the Japanese sales numbers and it's the retail sales only. So this isn't going to cover the digital sales in Japan. It's not worldwide. It's just the retail sales in Japan. And for Fire Emblem Engage, the game came out on Friday of last week as of the time that I'm recording this video. So these sales tracking period is from January 16th, 2023 to January 22nd, 2023. So it gets the first weekend of sales. And things are looking pretty good for Fire Emblem Engage. A lot of people felt that maybe it wouldn't pass up Fire Emblem Three Houses, but it actually ended up doing so. So the first opening weekend of sales, the game sold 144,558 retail copies. And if you compare that to Fire Emblem Three Houses, that opened up at 143,130 copies. So a little bit over 1,000 more copies for the game. Now, that might not seem like much, but what I do know 100% based off what Nintendo stated is that digital consumption for the Nintendo Switch has exploded in the past number of years. At launch, it was a lot more physical. It wasn't as much digital, especially for major or big games. You saw a lot of like indie games being purchased digital, but now at this point, digital consumption for big games like Super Smash Brothers or like Mario Kart or even like Fire Emblem is a lot higher now at this point than it was in the first couple years of the Switch's life. And we do know that Fire Emblem Engage was the top selling game on the eShop, or is the top selling game on the eShop in Japan and also in the US and in many other places. So I'm expecting a fairly substantial portion of that to be digital sales as well, maybe even up to 30% or so of the debut physical sales. So overall, Fire Emblem Engage had a great launch weekend, and it was something that I was talking about before, and I thought this game had a really good opportunity of doing well. Some people felt that maybe the lower review scores would affect the sales, which it still could in the long run, but I think at the end of the day, what we do know is this: Fire Emblem is the top of the top when it comes to strategy RPG games. When it comes to sales, nothing is bigger than Fire Emblem with the traditional Japanese strategy RPG. And that is incredible to see because Fire Emblem was pretty much on its deathbed about a decade or so ago, despite the series being a long-running and highly reviewed good series. If they didn't sell 250,000 copies of the game on the Nintendo 3DS, that series might have been shelved. And now look at where we are at this point. Just in one region, for one opening weekend, the game has sold over 140 something thousand units, not even including digital. So it's almost topping what that Ultimatum was all those number of years ago in the first opening week in one region. That is progress. That is something to be happy about. And Fire Emblem fans, this is definitely for us. This game is a celebration of the decades of Fire Emblem. There's so many cool nods to the old school Fire Emblem games, and it just makes me giddy and excited and happy to be a Fire Emblem fan just overall. So I absolutely love Fire Emblem Engage. I'm enjoying it, even with some of its faults and all. I will have a full review after I'm done beating the game and checking out most of the extra content, but this is absolutely going to be a 100+ hour game for me, or very close to that 100-hour game on the first playthrough. I'm thoroughly enjoying what they've done here with the game. Really, really like it. Now, next up, we have some more Fire Emblem news. You want to make sure that you check out the Nintendo Switch Online. There are Fire Emblem Engage user icons. I actually picked up mine recently, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see all the different icons, all the different waves that are coming out. Remember, they are timed, so you have to go through and look to see when those waves are going to be there or not. So I think I actually missed out on the first wave because they weren't there as of last week. They're available to the 26th. So I think I might have missed out on that, but I'll double check, of course. But yes, make sure you go pick up the waves. Go get those Fire Emblem icons, because I know I got the second wave, but I missed the Alair first wave, I think. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, those icons are up there. So if you want the second wave, go pick those up. And then also, with more Fire Emblem Engage news, we do have a pin set, a My Nintendo pin set. This is a real pin set, not digitally or anything, but you can pick up the pin set, and it gives you 16 pins. And you can get yourself Emblem Marth, Emblem Celica, Emblem Sigurd, Emblem Leaf, Emblem Roy, Lynn, Erica, Ike, Emblem Micaiah, Lucina, Corrin, Byleth. Pretty cool. Very good stuff all around, so I'm definitely liking what they're doing here with Fire Emblem Engage, with the promotion and also the sales and the icons. All of this stuff really does help out. And I think that Fire Emblem Engage is one of those strategy RPGs that I'm going to be playing for quite some time. And anybody who is a tactics fan, or if you're into those type of games, I highly recommend picking up Fire Emblem Engage. I think it's a phenomenal title, and I've just been playing it like crazy. I think I have like 27 or 28 hours in there, which is a lot for me considering all the other work that I have to do. So yeah, really enjoying the game. Shout out to Nintendo for all this other stuff here. Intelligent Systems made a banger of a game. But speaking of a banger of a game, or at least potentially here at a strategy RPG, we're going to talk about Redemption Reapers. Okay, this is a dark Fire Emblem style of game with a little bit more gore and dark, gritty nature to it. So let's talk about this. I've discussed the game before, but we got a launch date of February 22nd. So strategy RPG Redemption Reapers will launch digitally for the PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and PC via Steam on February 22nd for $49.99. Publisher Binary Haze Interactive and developer AdGlobe announced. A physical edition is due out late April. It will feature English and Japanese voiceover options and English, Japanese, French, Italian, German, Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, Chinese, simplified and traditional, and Korean language support. Now, Redemption Reaper's clever combat mechanics complement a gripping tale during wartime struggle, said Binary Haze Interactive CEO Hiroyuki Kobayashi in a press release. We look forward to watching our players explore this saga and experiment with creative tactics to secure victory on February 22nd. So apparently there were some developers who maybe worked on Fire Emblem on this game as well. I'm looking at the screenshots and the gameplay, and everything just looks super dark and like almost like a Bloodborne strategy RPG here. So here's a little bit of an overview of the game as well. Backed by a formidable battalion of AAA industry veterans, Redemption Reapers is an original story created by director Hiroyuki Kobayashi, producer of Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights. The game balance design courtesy of tactical RPG veteran Mayuki Horikawa, series director for Fire Emblem, planning Kingdom Hearts 3. So yes, they do have some people that have worked on it. There's also guys that have also worked on games like Metal Gear Solid, Freedom Wars, and the music from the Bayonetta series and also Fire Emblem series. Rei Kondo, he's worked on both of those music-wise. So yeah, this is an all-star cast. They've got all sorts of people that have worked on different games on the voice cast, from Arcane, Teen Titans Go, 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, Nier Automata, Apex Legends, Dragon Quest Inquisition, Persona 5, Final Fantasy 15, Squid Game, Triangle Strategy, and Attack on Titan. So they have a all-star voice cast. They have some great programmers, designers, series planners, music. So I'm liking what they're showing off here. The gameplay overview trailer looks really good. I've seen some of the content here already, but it looks great. And I think that Redemption Reapers can be one of those double A style of RPGs that maybe don't quite hit the levels of what you'd expect from like a Fire Emblem Three Houses or even a Fire Emblem Engage, but I think it's right below there and something to kind of play afterwards. And I'm pretty sure they were cognizant of making sure that they weren't too close to Fire Emblem when it comes to the release of the game. It is coming out February 22nd, which is right around Octopath Traveler 2, but also Atelier Ryza 3 got delayed into the following month, so it gives them a little bit more breathing room when it comes to big Japanese RPGs that are coming out. I think Kirby comes out that month as well. Hogwarts, which is a Western action RPG, comes out earlier, so I think that it's not too bad for this type of game, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of Redemption Reapers. I'm definitely picking it up. I'll probably get a review code for the game, so I'll absolutely play it, but I want to pick up that physical edition for myself. I think games like this deserve that physical edition, so it's good. We'll see how good it actually ends up being though, so it's going to be interesting. But I want to talk about something else that's interesting, because one of my favorite studios out there, especially from an art perspective wise, is Vanillaware, and Vanillaware is gearing up for another game. Now, all the way back in 2019, they teased a fantasy game, and this development of that game is finally coming to a close here, according to George Kamitani, and he says this is one of Vanillaware's biggest productions. And Vanillaware, for those who don't know, these are the guys who did Miramasa the Demon Blade, 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim. They've also done Dragon's Crown, Odin's Spear. They've done some of the best old school, classic, modern infused titles with just beautiful art style. A lot of their games have this great hand-drawn art and have smooth gameplay to boot with it. So people really love the Vanillaware games, and 13 Sentinels, one of their better selling Vanillaware titles out there on the Nintendo Switch and also PlayStation 4. So let's get into this here with what Vanillaware had to say. Now, back in March 2019, publisher ATLUS and developer Vanillaware released 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim Prologue, a paid trial of the 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim full game. The extras section of the in-game menu did include one notable bonus though, a teaser trailer for Vanillaware's next all-new title. Now, speaking with Nintenderos about the upcoming Western release of Grim Grimoire Once More, Vanillaware co-founder George Kamitani says that the long-in-developed title is both at the end of development and set to be one of Vanillaware's biggest games yet. Quote, in March 2019, for reasons I won't get into, we released only the prologue of 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, but it did include a video of our next title in it, and now it's finally finished. While I'm not the director of that title, it's one of Vanillaware's biggest productions, so please look forward to it. Lastly, the title I'm working on right now won't be finished for several years, but once that big title I'm telling you about is finished, I should get some development staff, so development of my project will finally move into full swing. Now, platforms and a release window for the new title have not been announced yet. The only confirmed detail is that it will be published by ATLUS, and this gets me excited because I love Vanillaware's titles, and I think that them working on something huge, maybe the scope and size of an Odin's Sphere or Dragon's Crown, is exciting. Now, their games are always really big and expansive no matter what they're doing, but the fact that they've been working on this game now for like, what, 4 or 5 years or so, absolutely one of the biggest games Vanillaware has ever done. ATLUS at the publishing helm as well. Very interesting to see Sega continue to allow ATLUS to have that type of development and relationship with Vanillaware on the side here and still publishing despite Sega picking them up all those years ago. But I'm interested to see what this is. It does seem like it is going to be a traditional, maybe action RPG 2D or side. I'm interested to see if they're going to do anything outside of the 2D, if they're going to kind of expand a little bit more into maybe 2.5D or other types of perspectives for this type of game. But a 2D fantasy action RPG from Vanillaware should be incredible, because I love the Odin Sphere, but a 2D traditional style with that art and with that type of style and the type of depth and mechanics that Vanillaware is used to, I think this could be one of their best-selling games ever if it's marketed and pushed right, and if it has the goods when it comes to combat and everything, because Vanillaware definitely knows how to show off a game. Their games do extremely well. For how small marketing budget they get, their games do extremely well. Word of mouth is really good with their titles, and really, if they had more development resources and money, they could obviously push the games on multiple different systems. Maybe they get some Game Pass pass deals for it. I mean, there could be more here, but I think that this might be their breakout title in order to get some of that. Sometimes it takes some studios longer than others to kind of break out past what they've been with more of a niche style or something like that. We saw with Dark Souls, for example, that used to be extremely small, and it took them decades to really break out of that. So I think that Vanillaware can kind of get into that next tier with this game if it ultimately ends up being incredible and reviews really well, because their games don't come out very often. But speaking of very excited for different things, make sure you guys check out the link in the description. I've got a pretty cool video where I talk about why Fire Emblem Engage is a must-buy game out there. If you haven't picked it up, I have a video on that. Make sure you guys check it out. I also go over some tips and tricks for those who have already picked it up. That will also be linked in the description below. Or if you want to talk about anything when it comes to the latest gaming news, I will have one of my videos where I talk about a variety of different things, like a new 2D Metroid, in addition to potential Fire Emblem remake as well. So there's a lot to go over on the channel. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it, and we'll see you for the next one. Peace out.